Hello everyone and welcome back to the Edain Mod. It has been a while, I know. But we have come back with the newest patch. Patch 4.5.4. And we're playing as Lothlorien because they have received a change. I'm not saying it's a good change, I'm saying they've received a change. But honestly, I feel like I know I've mentioned this a lot, but Lothlorien has received really no love for this in this game so far. They've updated this faction to have a new unit in their outpost, the Mirkwood outpost, not the Lothlorien outpost, which no one normally builds anyway. But what makes this faction feel really weak is not the fact they don't get armoured units, because if so, that would make Mordor weaker, because they don't get any unit upgrades like that. No, it's because Lothlorien's main mechanics have been, well, unfortunately, are the antithesis to the siege updates, where all siege equipment costs about 100 each, or 200 each. And that includes battering rams, that includes trebuchets and catapults and such. While factions that don't have those kind of things, or have Ents, for example, are just fall behind. And Lothlorien is one of those factions. Imladris is another one, but honestly, Imladris is perfect. They need to make absolutely no changes to the faction, even though they have made one change, but that's something to go over in another video. But I think that is the main problem with the Lothlorien faction right now, is that their buildings are actually incredibly weak. The central outpost is about half the strength of a normal outpost, which I feel it should be double the normal outpost, because it also costs more than the basic outpost. But yeah, I tested this against a Gondor, and against one battering ram that costs 100, one strike, 35% of the building. Second strike, 30% left. Third strike, fortress gone. And I think that is incredibly stupid that that the fortress can be destroyed so easily. It really feels like a miscalculation on the Edain team's part. I'm not saying they're not going to eventually change it, but I feel like right now Lothlorien is just an unplayable faction in almost every aspect. I had tried in the past to do back when I was doing battles on the River Loon, I tried to play as Lothlorien so many times, but every time the enemy would always rush me, and I couldn't stop them because my units can't really fight back. And even with full upgraded buildings and such, they still managed to just cut right through my base, destroyed it, and I just died. Or one of my allies dies because I wanted to try to do a triple Lothlorien. So yeah, Lothlorien played by the AI is fine because they get extra resources and cheats and such that the player doesn't have to worry about. Well, the AI doesn't have to worry about compared to the player. But for the player, Lothlorien really is the most difficult faction to play with right now, and I do not. I mean that in no disrespect to the faction. Lothlorien, when they first came out, I thought were amazing, and they were amazing. Unfortunately, because of recent changes to the game as a whole, Lothlorien has been made incredibly weak. Just because the way they play, their units, their mechanics, typically don't work in the same way as other factions do. And because of that, Lothlorien has just suffered. I mean, look at these archers. They just got mauled by a unit of orcs, and they didn't even try to fight back. Because archers sometimes get glitched in this game. I don't know why. It just happens. Yeah, I don't plan to do much Edain content on the new update, honestly. I feel like it's a bit of a disappointment that they've only managed to get this much done for this update. I know a lot of work has been put into this, and so on, but it feels like for an update to be this small, and they've literally made... I know my words won't go as well heeded as other people's, but I personally feel that all the stuff I've done to try and make this, to try and have people see reason that this faction needs work, has been for naught. And the main reasoning for that is, again, because, well, look, I'm going against orcs, and they're about the same strength as my Lothlorien units. They've been fighting that orc unit for how long, and they're level 4. Like, that shouldn't happen. Lothlorien's units just feel too weak. They honestly feel, overall, just too weak. The AI kind of can cut away from that because they can spam units better. They have no problems with economy. But someone who has to try and micromanage everything all at once, Lothlorien is too difficult. It really does feel like they've just given Lothlorien the bad end of the stick with these recent updates. Because obviously the siege update, they've not been affected by that. They don't have siege equipment that's been reduced in cost or increased in speed for recruitment. They have... all their heroes are locked behind different buildings, which you have to build. So you can't go all into one building, get the cost reduction, and get all your heroes. You have to pick either versatility or go for early game units and be really good with them. I mean, look at this. My Lothlorien archers are dying to orc archers, and they're not even putting up a fight. Like, that feels really, really odd, don't you think? That Lothlorien archers do near to no damage, because archers have been weakened in the recent patches. They have been weakened. Instead of being the value of the archer, it's the number of projectiles that can change the tide of a battle. So yeah, I personally feel like Lothlorien really needs a proper overhaul. I'm not sure how to do it myself. I personally feel that Age of the Ring Lothlorien is in a brilliant space. It is in a brilliant place. They have really unique units, unique abilities. The Mirror of Galadriel, it gives things everything. That's great. Lothlorien has the Edain Mod Lothlorien, no reference to the Mirror of Galadriel at all, and I feel like they should have at least some, because back in Edain 3.8 they used the mirror got used quite a lot. It was used for scrying the map. It used to give all your heroes all their upgrades and such. It felt really unique, where right now Lothlorien feels like a very dead faction. And I do say that, knowing, obviously, again, I don't expect any changes to really be made to Lothlorien. I expect they're going to make absolutely no changes whatsoever to Lothlorien in the future patches. But honestly, I do feel like Lothlorien needs a change. They need something. Because even though their fortress, yeah, they've got all these upgrades, a Mordor fortress is more well defended than a Lothlorien fortress. An Isengard fortress, a Gondor fortress, every kind of fortress is better defended than the Lothlorien fortress. Yeah, it was a cool mechanic when it was first originally perceived, when there was only very few factions and everything was still being fleshed out. But now, after a good few years of me playing with this faction, I can say with surety that Lothlorien is not in a good place, and changes need to be made. Because again, buildings are incredibly tough. They're incredibly hard to break. All these units together could not destroy this. Would not be able to destroy this if there was an army attacking it. Whereas any other faction can do that no problem, because they can get siege equipment from their fortress. We can't. We have no access to any siege equipment or any units that are on par with siege equipment. So we're incredibly lacking in any aggressive capabilities. Before, when the new changes to Lothlorien came in, before the siege update, Lothlorien was actually in a good place. Galadriel was more central to the faction, which I thought was needed. They didn't feel too weak. The archers were really strong, but now it feels like they've been beaten down again and again for feeling too strong, but they're not. They really are not too strong. And another thing is, they have no healing. Whereas before, Lothlorien used to be the faction that was all about self-healing and preservation, which they should be. Banner carry units should self-heal when they're out of combat. like they did back in vanilla. The unit should get a should have other abilities that work not when they're just covered in trees, because factions exist that can get rid of those trees, such as Isengard, for example. The worst faction to play against with Lothlorien is Isengard, because they can just destroy all tree areas, and then your special mechanic for the faction is gone. And they're known for throwing out a bunch of heroes that can kill your units off very easily. Yes, adding this new spear unit does weaken other heroes that ride mounts. I must admit, this new spear unit is a good start. But altogether, Lothlorien needs something unique to themselves. Not to Mirkwood, but to the actual Lothlorien faction. Also, I want to see what these palace guards do. Seems like we can't make them yet. Oh, we need forged blades. Okay. Yeah, I get that. But yeah, that is my honest opinion on everything going on with Lothlorien right now. They feel too weak. They feel like they can't really suppress an enemy, and they have no real way of ending the game without finding a settlement, which sometimes you can't actually do. Sometimes an AI can actually completely deprive you of having any settlements, and you can't win. The combat mechanic does not work. The combat mechanic that the Edain team themselves have said is to help balance the game so that a faction can be reduced to a fortress and then come back to victory. For Lothlorien, I think that is a lie. I honestly think for Lothlorien, that is a massive, massive lie. And the main reason for that is, again, because they don't have... The units aren't tough. Their heavy armour only applies to Galathrim, which costs 900 base. That's about twice the cost of Tower Guard, which do more than the Galathrim can do. Yes, they've got archers and they can switch between swords and bows. But who honestly uses that? You purchase the Galathrim to switch between sword and bow. You use them to either go sword or go bow because you can't afford all of the upgrades, because the upgrades are incredibly expensive. And again, you can't decrease them very well because you need to invest in the different resources. It really feels like Lothlorien, they have answers to a lot of things, but you can never have answers for everything. You have to have an answer for this or this or this, and it feels like you can very easily be bogged down by trying to do one thing when you can't do everything. Well, every other faction can do everything. Because there's Mordor, they've got orcs, they can spam orcs all day, they can make their heroes all day, they can make siege equipment, which they're going to do soon, they can make their... let's get Queen of Storms, actually. Queen of Twilight, I don't care. The only thing Lothlorien I can say that they actually have is their powers are decent. They're not as good as they used to be. If anything, they've made their powers weaker by tethering them to Galadriel. Yes, it's more unique, but they have made them so much weaker in doing so. So if you don't have Galadriel, your new tier 10 powers, a AoE cage effect, which personally feels incredibly weak and does no damage, and you see the entire map, and cooldowns for spells are reduced by 25%. Whereas Mordor has makes Sauron a overpowered beast who can summon a fortress. Gondor has summon Rohan, summon Army of the Dead. Rohan has summon Ents, summon a camp that can constantly spawn Rohirrim. Imladris has give your barracks a permanent buff that allows them to make all their units elite with full upgrades, or summon an army. Isengard, summon an army, destroy an enemy fortress. I don't know what they've done. I don't know why they've given Lothlorien so much hate. I honestly don't know what to say. Other than, I'm just going to keep moaning about it until they fix it. I feel like that's the only real thing I can do. Is keep saying Lothlorien is too weak. They need a real change that will make them better. They really do. I really cannot overstate how much of a change Lothlorien needs. It's not that I want them to change. If anything, I would rather revert back to before the siege update. I'd say that was probably the most balanced Edain ever was before the siege update. I know that feels I know that sounds weird. I'm contradicting myself over and over again saying this. But it really feels like Lothlorien has nothing right now. And yes, I'm beating this AI down. I'm keeping them in their fortress. But it's a hard AI, so they're not playing at their best. It's a Mordor. I know for a fact only Mordor siege equipment can really bring me down. And the AI isn't always smart enough to plan ahead and go for that. Oh, and another thing. The second outpost has no real purpose for Lothlorien. Whereas for every other faction, their second outpost has a purpose. Yes, they're both unique, so it gives them a bit, it fleshes them out a bit, but it's literally just giving you another fortress that can get all the upgrades. But then you don't get Mirkwood. And personally, Mirkwood is better. Personally, I think Mirkwood is better. You should always go Mirkwood. Never go for this Lothlorien outpost. Okay, let's go in and... Because yeah, I must say, Lothlorien heroes, they are the one thing, perhaps, that don't need changing. They are perfectly fine as they are right now. Lothlorien heroes... Mirkwood is in a good place now. And in that new unit, Mirkwood is in a very good place. And I'm going to see these palace guards, these new palace guards in action. But yeah, here we go. Those battering rams, 3 hits on a fortress and it goes down. Trolls, a couple more hits because they don't count as siege equipment. And they go down. But watch this. Archers going full on onto battering rams. And that is such small damage. And also, I built no defences for this place, so I should probably go back and save it. Okay, so the palace guards come immediately with all their upgrades. Defend the palace. Buildings gain armour and grant buildings additional 20% armour. Protective formation. Protect heroes. In this formation, they cannot be overridden. But they switch to a sword formation instead of being spears. Okay. You got heavy armour, and then they've got defenders of Mirkwood. Okay, now the archers are actually doing good against the archers. Why do you have to prove me wrong when I thought I was being proven right? I don't know. Ugh. Yeah, all these upgrades, you can purchase all these, but honestly... Yeah, you can, but they actually give you no... They made that weaker. Yeah, because now this only gives you... this allows you to train your basic units now. Instead of also giving you a command point boost, they should put that back. Or give some other... Or generate more resources. Sanctuary Ring. Surround the fortress and concealing fog should also make it a well. Glathrim Wing, that is fine. Speed the fortress up by 50%. That's the kind of upgrade you need for each of these. You need to make this fortress viable, because obviously I find Mirkwood still to be better. In every way, Mirkwood is better. Oh, and there goes my fortress building. Let's rebuild that, and build another. And build another troop chamber. So what does this power do? Whenever enemy cavalry or beast shot... Oh, okay, it says it's a palace guard ability, but now level 3. But it changes when you go into protective formation. Protect the king. Thranduil, Legolas, and Tariel get extra damage and armor. Palace guards use their large shields to keep enemies at bay. Their attacks throw back enemies in a large radius. Okay. So that's a good change. See, that is a really good change to make this unit better. They made them slightly more expensive. Yes. But their cost can be reduced by this. Guardians of Calas Galathon. What do they do? What value do they have? Why would you want to pick them over, for example, just basic Lothlorien? Or even just Lothlorien archers, since they're so cheap? Personally, I think the elite units of Lothlorien need a change. Lothlorien needs to be split into Sword and Shield, I think. And the Guardians of Karas Galathon, I don't know what to do with them, honestly. I don't know what Lothlorien needs to go through to make them better, but it feels like they're elite units right now. Yes, the archers are thematic because they're the archer faction, I get that. But it really feels like those archers are doing nothing. It really does. It feels like those archers have no impact on the battle when they enter. And I'm probably right as well on that. They probably have no real impact. Yes, they get automatic Silverthorn arrows. I'll admit, that is good. That is a decent upgrade. But again, this building here, when it gets the smithy, should reduce or at least count to the unit cost, the cost reduction for, what's the word? Upgrades. Yeah, the new palace they've done Mirkwood really well. They've done Mirkwood really well. I will admit they have done it well, but it still feels like they still suffer in too many ways to me to tell them say yes they're good. They still have no siege equipment. I cannot destroy this fortress. I could throw in all these units and they would all die. Also our arrow upgrade, now I'd say is on par with everyone else's in value, but still costs twice as much. Like, why are you gonna do this? Why are you gonna do this to us? Why do we still have to suffer with having incredibly poor, incredibly high costs for everything? I feel like that needs to go to a change. Also, he can get knocked back. Why? Nova here seems to be knocked down. But yeah, Silverthorns have always been good. I always admit Silverthorns are good because they are. Obviously, the cost bugs me because other factions don't have that insane cost, and again they are about the same. Their power against heroes, fire arrows, gold thorn arrows of enlargers even don't even cost that much, but they're just as good, and they're better because they've been reduced easier. And in fact, yeah, that's another thing. Because the outposts can't reduce the cost of your buildings, if you don't build the building in your fortress, then why do you have it? Or how can you reduce it even? And the answer is you can't. That is it. The answer is you can't. That is again another big problem. Those nice cost reductions that are kind of part of the game, you don't have. I feel like they should do something more with the Malon trees too. These were cool when they first came out, but I feel like something else could be done to it to make them a bit more. Also, a permanent archer on each of these Malon trees. That's another thing. If they're the archer faction, why not give them a permanent archer on these Malon trees? It's not like they don't have enough problems. I should probably also make them Entmoot somewhere, so get rid of this Malon tree here. But yeah, heroes and their Silverthorn arrow units are fine. The Guardians of Karas Galathon, I don't think are good. I personally feel like they need a change in some capacity or another. What that must be, I don't know. But look at this. What is this? What is this? What? Why would you give an elite unit the ability to hide? What power? What other legendary units are there? Mordor, Castellans, Blight the Earth, extra damage. Morgul Riders. the things they kill get turned into tormented souls, which then if Sauron upgrades Minas Morgul, can then be turned... Oh no, when the Minas Morgul riders die, they become tormented souls, which then can become a incredibly powerful single target entity unit. In Lardris, give everything more experience. They get extra damage and armor, immunity to knockback. Everyone gets immunity resistance. What else is there? Gondor Citadel Guard. Switch between sword and shield can make buildings invulnerable. Dwarven units can switch between an axe and a shield for extra damage or armor. The Arkengard can crush buildings and heroes with ease. Unburnt can crush anything under their superior power. Rohan, incredibly powerful elite cavalry that can charge unhindered. And we can turn invisible while standing still. Left click to activate. I'm sorry I'm raging so much, guys. I really am sorry I'm raging, but I feel like if I don't say this now, it's never going to get said, and it's going to build up to a crescendo, and I'm going to be raging for months. Why did I rebuild this into a Malon tree? Why? Why did I rebuild that into a Malon tree? Orifin, do something useful. Oh, the scout heroes as well for Lothlorien. Rumel and Orifin. They're fine, honestly. Not going to deny, they are fine. I feel like they have no need to change. Also, the Bjorning Huts doesn't need to change. The Entmoots, something needs to be done about the Entmoots. Yes, Ents are cool and amazing and can be seen as really strong, but they aren't. They're about as fragile as every other piece of siege equipment in the game. They are... they often suffer from the same... Again, they count as cavalry as well. So, pikes, and they're dead. Even more than what they normally would be. Fire. So, example, Mordor, Rohan, Gondor. Who else has fire? Isengard doesn't have fire anymore. Okay, so not Isengard. But still, Mordor, Gondor, and Rohan can absolutely obliterate Ents and set them on fire. Ents are not resistant to archers like other siege equipment are. So that's another problem. So yeah, 1,290 command points. That is the problem. 90 command points for an Ent. Also, incredibly long recruit times. Yes, I understand. These are meant to be really powerful units. They're meant to be really good. They're versatile, which makes them better than other siege equipment. But for 90 command points, I can only get Treebeard and Quick Beam, and then that's it. That's all I can get. Whereas, with this extra 100 command points, they can get 10 battering rams and destroy my entire base without me noticing. Like, where is the balance in that? I think the Enmoot should be made into a power. I think the Enmoot should be made into a power at about tier 3. Like Defenders of Mirkwood. Get rid of the Defenders of Mirkwood. Make a mini Mirkwood barracks. We can get Tariel as a permanent summon. I feel like then she'd be worth it. Permanently summon Tariel. Get another cheap scout unit archer that's really weak, but also really small. So you don't need to worry about that. Because again, Silver Thorns, incredibly expensive. And the only other real way to deal with fortresses. Yes, Galadriel, when she goes full apeshit, can go and be an army killer. But she also needs to level up first. Do you see her leveled up? She's currently level 5, and she doesn't have any way to destroy this base. Other than a basic attack. Which, yeah, that's pretty cool. But it's only temporary. Unless she has the ring, that is a temporary power. Oh yeah, Wrath of the Huorns. When I first used this, I thought, oh, this is going to be cool. It's gonna have like mini Ents and stuff. Nope. Can't use it anywhere because it can't be used on buildings. That is something that needs to change. It should be able to be used anywhere, regardless of other buildings. But yeah, that's it. Mini washes in the water that have been painted into trees. And that is it. Treebeard, again, he's a hero. He's incredibly good, but do something about that speed. Come on. You actually thought it would be a good idea to make Ents slow in this game. What good idea did that came? What? Who thought of that idea? Yeah, changes need to be made. Small changes, admittedly. Only small changes need to be made. But they are changes nonetheless that need to be made. Because small changes like that could make Lothlorien a better faction overall. Again, I personally don't know what else could be done. Maybe make heavy armor a thing again for Lothlorien, even though it doesn't really suit their faction. Make the Galathrim stronger. Make the Palace Guards slightly tougher because they've died a lot. But yeah, right now I feel like Lothlorien's I'm at a bit of a loss on what to do with Lothlorien as a faction. I really do not know what else could be done to make them feel more balanced. Because right now they are really on the low end of the scale for me. I had to go against a hard AI. I had to lower the difficulty of the AI just to stand a chance. And I had to choose a really good map as well. I had to rush that outpost. Anyway, I've complained enough. I hope you have enjoyed what little I have been able to give. But do keep a note, I will be doing some Baldur's Gate 3 content soon. I have got the game working, fully functional. I want to be able to make some of that content. But yeah, until next time, my friends, ta-ta for now.